What is going on, investors? Hopefully you guys are doing well out there. That is right. It is a Friday, and it's a special Friday. That is because Thursday was a holiday. Most of you probably had the day off. And so even if you had to work today on a Friday, all you did was sit around and wait for the FANG Stock Recap Show here on the Investor Channel, where every Friday we recap all the major news and the technical chart patterns from all the major FANG stocks. And this week, and this month, rather, is a glorious, glorious month because it is earnings. We only get earnings 4 times a year for these companies, and July, we will be hearing from all of these companies, and they are ripping before earnings. Tesla higher, Netflix, Meta setting up to all-time highs. Better not waste any more of your time. Kick things off like we always do with Meta Platforms. Start of the week at $495.82. And I tell you what, Mark Zuckerberg got on a wakeboard, and so did Meta stock, up nearly 9% this week. Finished the week at $540. And remember, Thursday was a holiday. Meta will report their earnings at the end of the month on July 31st. Now, Mark Zuckerberg is not just wakeboarding and drinking and wearing suits for some reason while he's on the water. He's saying that Threads is now having 175 monthly users. I don't know if this is monthly active users. Maybe it's the same terminology, but 175 million users. And here's the key. What Mark said is he might start selling ads on the platform. I guarantee you that's what he's looking to do. And if I think Threads is something I've signed up for. I haven't really checked in on it in a while, but I think if they more tightly integrate it with Instagram, which I've seen that they've done, I tell you what, you've got some additional ad money coming from Threads. Moving on to Apple, start of the week at $212.49, up 6.5%. Huge move higher technically. You want to stick around for that. Apple finished the week at $226.32. The company reports their earnings on July 24th. Now, Apple has lost share in the cell phone market here in the United States, but also in China. And that's despite a lot of the press releases that I'm sure you've been following here on the channel, that they had a lot of price cutting in China, not necessarily directly from Apple, but certain merchants like Tencent and the other online retailers. Well, they were cutting and kind of subsidizing maybe a price cut on Apple iPhones in China. It did surge some sales, but not enough to have Apple lose some steam and lose some market share in both of those countries. And so what we'll see, I think, going forward with Apple is they have priced their products to perfection, as you'd expect a company like this to do. But what it's showing me is they don't probably have a lot of upward pricing power in terms of the devices, but can they squeeze out more on the services end, maybe charging for some of those generative AI features that they rolled out last month? Now, Apple executive is receiving an observer role on OpenAI boards. This is more or less maybe like you and I observing OpenAI from a distance. You have no voting power. You have no rights. Also, the way OpenAI has set up their structure is once the company and the board, which is the voting board members, not Apple and Microsoft, which both have an observer role on OpenAI board. Once the board that actually makes decisions at OpenAI says that the company has reached artificial general intelligence, it means a lot of the deals that they have in place don't apply for that, and the company might go out on its own, maybe creating their own products, their own software, and maybe creating new licensing deals with other companies. Moving on to Amazon, start of the week at $194. Up 2.8% to finish the week at $199.95. Amazon reports their earnings on July 25th. I tell you what, a person not waiting around for Amazon earnings is Amazon founder Jeff Bezos. Still owns about 10% of the company, but he unloaded nearly $5 billion worth of the company shares this week. We have another executive later in the show that also unloaded for the first time this year. I tell you what, these executives have an uncanny ability to unload shares at near all-time highs and sometimes peaks in that company's valuation, at least in the shorter term. Now, here's a really interesting story. So you have Saks Fifth Avenue, which is a department store here in the United States, might have department stores globally as well, but it's kind of I would call it a semi-upscale department store. Well, they're going to buy Neiman Marcus, which is almost kind of the same thing. Very similar product line, very similar type of store. What's interesting is under the agreement, Amazon is going to take a minority stake in the combined company company. So both Neiman Marcus and Saks Fifth Avenue. Also, Salesforce is going to be a minority investor as well. Typically, how these investments work is they don't necessarily involve cash. It's Amazon maybe putting up some cloud computing strength. It also could be Amazon doing some fulfillment backend for their e-commerce. Also, maybe potentially selling on Amazon, and Salesforce as well. Instead of having to maybe pay per seat, maybe that is rolled up into some kind of investment. Interesting, though, that you have these tech companies making investment in kind of old line Main Street retail stores. Amazon is abandoning their Astro for Business security robot, and they're going to just focus on the home robot. So this is not a complete wipeout of kind of their robotic dreams over at Amazon, at least from the consumer end. They had this Astro for Business security robot, and just nobody was using it, and it doesn't seem like that wide of a market, at least right now. So they're going to refocus the team on the home robot, which acts somewhat as maybe like a personal assistant around your home. Moving on to Netflix, start of the week at $669.28. Up 3.14%. And as we've said, Netflix seemed destined to go back to its all-time highs, which I think are close to $700. We're just $10 from that. That's Netflix, end of the week at $690.32. Netflix, the first to report on July 18th. Just 13 days from now. Now, Paramount Global, we've been following that saga here on the show, is they're talking to potential partners to merge their streaming business. We've kind of started to see this among the streamers. There's obviously the standouts like Netflix, which really don't have to do it. Disney Plus to maybe a lesser degree because they own Hulu and they have another business model, which is Disneyland Parks, which support more or less the financial structure of the company. But we're seeing other businesses like Peacock, even Apple, start to combine or bundle their streaming services to kind of give consumers maybe more choice and maybe have them churn off the platform less than they already do. Like maybe there's something you want to watch on Paramount, and then once you watch it, you cancel it. Well, if your Paramount subscription is maybe bundled with something else, maybe you don't cancel and churn off the platform as much as currently happens. Now, they're also potentially looking for a tech partner. So you could see maybe a Google or an Amazon if regulators allow it. And certainly we can talk about the election, which is certainly taken some twists and turns, to say the least, over the last week. Well, you could see a tech company invest in Paramount and maybe take over its streaming business or bundle it with some of their other services. Now, speaking of struggling, you know, these Redbox DVD rental kiosks, you often see them outside of grocery stores. In fact, I think they're still there, at least the grocery stores that I frequent. Well, this company called Chicken Soup for the Soul Entertainment, that's the company that's kind of behind these. These things have obviously gotten less and less popular over the years, and the company has filed for bankruptcy as it owes nearly $1 billion to hundreds of creditors, including all the major studios, Sony, Warner Brothers, and others. I think we're moving to a day where there's just not a lot of media on physical media until maybe that makes a comeback like I think vinyl records have over the past couple of years. Moving on to Nvidia, start of the week at $119.32, and Nvidia did not miss out on the rally, up nearly 5.5% to finish the week at $125.85. Nvidia is the last to report of these companies. In fact, they don't report till next month on August 15th. Now, Nvidia appears likely to face charges by a French antitrust authorities. I tell you what, you get big enough as a company, I don't care what you're doing, what you're selling, one of these regulatory agencies are going to come after you. They see $1 trillion valuation after your market cap, and they're going to find something to come after you for. And in the terms of the French government, is they're looking at anti-competitive practices, maybe boxing out other competitors in the AI chip race. Now, got another CEO taking chips off the table. Guys, don't ever feel bad about selling a stock. This is not your child. This is not your wife. You buy these stocks to make money, and so do these CEOs. Nvidia CEO Jensen Huang sells 1.3 million shares of Nvidia after the company's obviously had a record rise. This is, I believe, the first sale by Jensen Huang this year. Now, Nvidia's received a rare downgrade moving into earnings season for this company next month by New Street, as they see the company as, quote, fully valued. I think this is going to be the narrative around Nvidia. Obviously, shares have performed, I mean, needless to say, year to date, up 154%. Over the past year, up nearly 200%. We had a press release a couple of weeks ago where you had a lot of retail piling into Nvidia before and after the stock split, those tend to be times where stocks start to top out because it's just a law of kind of large numbers. It's going to be running into difficult comps. It's going to be running into more competition, maybe not necessarily a lot of competition, but there is some competition out there with Nvidia. And I think you will see that this company is viewed as, quote, fully valued. Now, it doesn't mean that the shares won't outperform the S&P 500 or a lot of stocks, but will it dramatically outperform the rest of the stock market? Well, that would take Nvidia up into a stratosphere we just had never seen in the stock market, and I just don't think that's possible. Moving on to Google, start of the week at 182, and you know what's possible is all of these stocks went up this week, including Google up 4.65% to finish the week at 190.59. You'll hear from Google this month on July 23rd, which will be a very large day here on the channel. Now, Character.ai held talks with Google Meta XAI about different types of tie-ups and partnerships. Now, Character AI makes different types of AI chatbots, which use different types of AI-generated characters, talking heads, if you will. I've seen some examples. Maybe you could create a talking head of yourself and then maybe release a YouTube video about that or something like that. It was founded by Google employees, and my guess is they need both compute power, but also access to those large language models, which are particularly expensive to train and roll out. Now, Google is going to require advertisers to disclose digitally altered content in their election ads. We are just a couple of months away from the election. And I tell you what, after last week's debate, you have no idea what's in store over the next couple of months. There's likely going to be some ups and downs. And I tell you what, some digitally altered content might help some candidates out more than it would others. Now, Alphabet is going to release Mineral, basically meaning they're going to give up on this company, as this was part of the X Lab or the moonshot business that Google operates under. We see it every quarter when the company reports their earnings. They basically make no money. They burn through these moonshots. This was an AI-powered robot that scanned farmers' fields. I thought it was too big of a device. I saw a video on this. I think what Mineral does can be done with lighter weight drones, and I think they would have more flexibility. So I think this Mineral project, while it had interesting ideas, detecting weeds, detecting the ripeness of fruit, detecting those types of things, I don't think it was the vessel to do that. I think flying drones probably taking care of that business better than a stationary object with wheels. Now, moving on to Microsoft. Start of the week at 447.35. This company up 4.5% to finish the week at 467.56. Microsoft, same day as Google, which is typically how it goes, on July 23rd when they report earnings. Not a lot of news out of Microsoft this week. Moving on to the stock of the week. Tesla started the week, believe it or not, I can't believe this, started the week at 205, and in a shortened trading week where you only had 4 days, Tesla was up 22.66%. Tell you what, probably has to be a little bit of a short squeeze when you see Tesla make these types of moves, as Tesla finished the week up over $50 per share to finish the week, $251.52. Now, Tesla normally reports the same week as Netflix, but I see Tesla reporting their earnings on July 23rd. We'll see if that date stands. Now, company rallied this week after Q2 deliveries topped kind of the beaten down expectations. Obviously, where interest rates are, Tesla having to subsidize some leases, subsidizing some of the APR that you're seeing. It looks to be working. Like if you go to the Tesla website, you can get like 1.99% APR. You look at their lease rates on their car. It's very, very attractive. Certainly if you factor in that you're probably going to be saving a little bit of money with gas and certainly maintenance as well. They reported 443,000, nearly 444,000 deliveries. The expectations, which have come in over the past couple of months, were closer to 440,000. The bulk of the sales being Model 3 and Model Y. I think there is some hope that they're able to scale up the Cybertruck deliveries moving into the end of the year and not sell just the $100,000 kind of founder's model. You're going to get a broader range of Cybertruck, and that could generate more revenue for Tesla. Now, the company could receive lower EU tariffs on China-made EVs after an inspection. This is because Tesla makes a lot of the EVs that get exported to the European Union, they make them in China. And so everybody's like slapping on these tariffs, anything made in China. And Tesla was seeing a 38% tariff on like a $50, $60, $70,000 car. So Tesla's looking for ways to work around that. It looks like it could get down to maybe closer to 21%. Now, moving over to the technical segment of the show, you are going to love looking at these charts and graphs because if you're long, if you're short the stock market or you're out of the market, it probably kind of sucks. But I tell you what, you are on the biggest and bullish of upswings. I mean, you've got a channel and then you've got a secondary upswing here. We're setting up at the highs. These are areas where you don't want to have FOMO or fear of missing out. This is where a lot of retail investors kind of pile in. They may have missed parts or all of this rally. And then what they do is at the end, they say, well, the market just keeps going up, so I'm just going to throw my money in right now. And you certainly could have made that argument back in July of last year. You could have made it back in March earlier this year, and you still would have made money, but there will be better buying opportunities going forward. I think we're moving into earnings season. You'll see with all of these stocks, we're setting up at all-time highs, and can these stocks actually deliver numbers that send them even higher? Seems unlikely, but we'll obviously see that later this month. Now, Meta blasting up to all-time highs. Wow, well before earnings, several weeks before earnings, in fact, we are setting up at all-time highs with Meta. Now, before the company reports their earnings, we will hear from Google. We'll hear from Microsoft, which has a big ad business. We'll obviously hear from Apple. We'll actually hear from all of these companies except from Nvidia. And so Meta's stock will react, I think, to other companies. But obviously, I think what we're expecting with Meta is they're going to produce very, very solid numbers. And even though Mark Zuckerberg has been spending time wakeboarding, he's also been spending a lot of time firing employees. So the profits over at Meta are probably going to be fantastic. Now look at this technical chart with Apple. We broke to highs, hesitated for a moment, thought about a back test. Nope. Boom. All the way back up. Just a lack of sellers. And we're actually seeing volume, at least not over the last week, but on this rally, you're seeing volume increase. That's a little scary to me when I see people pile into these tops on a company that really, as we talked about today, is actually losing market share in their number one revenue gainer. Now, Jeff Bezos sold Amazon stock this week, and boy, did he pick a good week because the stock has not been this high in over 3 years. Boom, powering higher with Amazon. Talked about for actually like several months now, the fact that if this company could get over the previous clusters of highs, sometimes you have this little run. Now, just because I'm not super excited about buying these stocks right at this moment doesn't mean they won't continue to power higher. In fact, the trend on most of these stocks looks like it wants to continue to just move higher, but you should have some pullbacks. And again, as always, really, we've been saying it for maybe more than a year now, pullbacks in all of these companies should be bought. Now, moving on to Netflix. We talked about how setting up at these all-time highs that we made back in November of 2021, so basically 3 years ago, we talked about how it was almost destiny. Netflix kind of retraces to that step, and more or less, here we are. Now the question is, can you put up earnings in just 13 days that powers you higher and blast you up above? Or will we see disappointment and you get a pullback with Netflix? I'd sit around and wait, but certainly it is in a great position considering their competition is not doing well at all. Now, Nvidia made some highs a couple of weeks ago or a week or two ago, up here at about 140-ish. We've pulled back a little bit, but the trend is still intact. The longer-term trend, intermediate trend, every trend that you look in with Nvidia is still intact. Probably should be bought. Now, Google looking really, really strong. Just shows you once you kind of break out from some highs, you can just kind of continue that trend. We're not seeing it really follow through with like really overwhelming volume over at Google. But similar to Meta, everybody is comfortable with what this company is going to put up from a numbers perspective, and they'll probably surprise to the upside on the profit because all these companies have just been laying off employees and cost cutting. Now, Microsoft looking absolutely fantastic. We've kind of hit maybe a minor resistance level here at the middle of the channel. That's not like an official technical line. You don't necessarily have to have that on your chart. This top channel line can probably be reduced to here. So it looks like with Microsoft, you're going to continue to walk up the ladder. Now, I have two positions in Microsoft. I have a retirement portfolio with Microsoft, and I can't exactly remember when I got in on that one, but I have a trading position with Microsoft, which I know I'm up, I think I looked 13 or 14% on that one. I will be peeling off the trading position with Microsoft as we move into earnings, just to lock in some profits. Obviously, the long position remains intact now. Oh my gosh, look at Tesla. This is why you want to take a look at the charts. You don't have to do spinning tops and dojis and all that type of stuff. You don't even have to draw in a lot of these lines, but what you want to do is take into account and take a look at when there's a major trend change. And obviously, doesn't take a genius to really even point out, or a chart master, that you had a massive trend change in Tesla. You are in this multi-downtrend. Some people I've seen with their charts, they're extending the Tesla trend to go back all the way to November 2021. That is certainly plausible. I think it's a little cleaner if you just look maybe kind of in the shorter term here. And once you have a break of these downtrends, I tell you what, you have like these skipping candles, and it's a look at the volume. I'll try to zoom in. Look at the increased volume on Tesla as well. Probably a little bit of a short squeeze is here, as the short side of Tesla has obviously been kind of the trade you want to been in if you're in it for kind of shorter term technicals. The short side of Tesla has worked for about a year now. So when that trend reverses, you get some people caught off sides. Now we're looking for a retest of this area that we're at right around 260. If you can power through 260 with Tesla, you really don't have a lot of resistance until you get up at 291. And like I said, the company normally reported their earnings kind of the second, maybe sometimes the third week of the month. This, at least the notice that I have here on TradingView, we don't have earnings until the 23rd, which is 4 or 5 days later than what Tesla normally does. Could give some company a little more time to digest this move that things have happened. Also could just keep this momentum going, and we could roll into earnings, which are always entertaining with Tesla, as you get Elon Musk more or less unfiltered on a conference call, and that could go one way or another. Folks, that was the FANG Stock Recap Show for Friday, July 5th. I hope you all had a great holiday yesterday. Have a fun and safe weekend. Stay cool, stay happy, and we'll see you again next week. Good luck with your investments.